The rain was freezing, but I couldn't feel the cold. I couldn't feel anything except the crushing weight of the plastic stick burning a hole in my pocket. I stood in the hallway of the luxury apartment complex, water dripping from my hair onto the pristine marble floor. My hand trembled as I knocked on the door again. "Ethan, please open up," I called out, my voice cracking. "We need to talk." The door swung open abruptly. Ethan stood there, dressed in a crisp white shirt that I had ironed for him just yesterday. His face, usually warm when he looked at me, was twisted into a sneer of annoyance. "What are you doing here, Maya?" he snapped, blocking the entrance. "I told you I needed space." "I know," I stammered, my heart pounding against my ribs. "But this is important." "Ethan, I took a test this morning." I pulled the pregnancy test out of my pocket and held it up with shaking hands. "I'm pregnant." I waited for the shock to turn into joy. I waited for him to pull me into his arms and tell me we would figure it out, just like he promised when we were struggling college students. Instead, he threw his head back and laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound that echoed in the hallway. "Pregnant?" He scoffed, looking at me with pure disgust. "That is the oldest trick in the book, Maya. Did you really think that would work on me?" "It's not a trick," I cried, stepping closer. "It's your baby." "I'm scared, Ethan. I don't know what to do." "Well, you can start by getting rid of it," he said coldly. "I finally got my promotion. I'm not going to let a gold digger like you trap me with a kid just as I'm starting to make real money." "Gold digger?" I gasped, feeling like he had slapped me. "Ethan, I supported you for 3 years. I paid the rent when you were an intern. I bought your groceries when you had nothing." "And that's exactly where you belong," he interrupted. "In the past, you don't fit in my future, Maya. Look at you." "You're pathetic. Babe, who is making all that noise?" A woman's voice floated from inside the apartment. My stomach dropped. A moment later, a tall, stunning woman appeared behind Ethan. She was wearing a silk robe that cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her blonde hair was perfect and diamonds sparkled in her ears. I recognized her immediately. Chloe, the daughter of the company's chairman. The client Ethan had been spending so many late nights with. "Oh," Chloe said, looking me up and down with a smirk. "Is this the charity case you told me about?" "She was just leaving," Ethan said, his voice changing instantly to a smooth, charming tone as he looked at her. "Ethan, you were cheating on me?" I whispered, tears finally spilling over. "With her? Don't be dramatic," he spat, turning back to me. "Chloe is a woman of status. She can help me build an empire. You're just a burden. You're holding me back." "I loved you," I sobbed, the humiliation burning my skin. "Doesn't that matter?" "Love doesn't pay the bills, Maya. Power does." He turned around and grabbed a black garbage bag sitting near the entryway. "I packed your junk. Don't come back." He threw the bag at me. It hit my chest with a heavy thud, knocking the wind out of me. My toothbrush, my cheap sweaters, and the framed photo of us from our first anniversary all treated like trash. "Ethan, please," I begged, grabbing the doorframe as he tried to close it. "I have nowhere to go. I have $20 in my pocket. Please, just let me stay on the couch for one night, just until I figure this out, for the baby's sake." He pried my fingers off the wood, his grip painful. "Figure it out on the street," he sneered. "You're not my problem anymore." Slam. The sound of the heavy door closing was final. I heard the lock click. Then I heard them laughing on the other side. I stood there for a long time, staring at the wood grain. Slowly, I picked up the garbage bag. It was heavy, awkward, and smelled like his expensive cologne scent I used to love. I turned and walked out of the building. As soon as I stepped onto the sidewalk, the sky opened up. The rain poured down in sheets, soaking through my thin jacket instantly. I clutched the bag to my chest, shivering violently. I looked down at the pregnancy test still in my hand. 2 pink lines. "It's just us now," I whispered to the empty street. I checked my pocket. A crumbled $20 bill and a few coins. No home, no family. No job, and a man who wished I didn't exist. I sat down on the wet curb, the rain mixing with the tears streaming down my face, and for the first time in my life, I truly wished I could disappear. "Honey, you've been nursing that same cup for 3 hours. You want to warm up?" I looked up, startled. The waitress stood over me, pot in hand, her face kind but tired. I glanced down at the cold, black coffee in front of me. I slid my hand over the small pile of coins on the table, $4.75. That was it. "I don't have enough for another cup," I whispered, my throat dry. Refills are free, she said, pouring the steaming liquid before I could protest. You okay, sugar? You look like you've been through a war. Something like that, I murmured, wrapping my frozen fingers around the mug. Well, shift change is in an hour. You can stay till then. She walked away, and the silence crashed back down on me. I stared out the window at the dark street. If Mom and Dad were still alive, I'd be in my childhood bedroom right now. I'd be safe. But they were gone, buried 3 years ago, leaving me with nothing but an empty ache in my chest. A wave of nausea suddenly rolled over me. I clamped a hand over my mouth, the smell of grease from the kitchen making my stomach turn. The baby. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't sleep on the street. I had to swallow my pride. My fingers trembled as I pulled out my phone, 4% battery. I scrolled to a number I hadn't dialed in 2 years. Sarah, Ethan had made me cut her off. He said she was too loud, too opinionated, and jealous of our love. I had listened to him. I had chosen him over my best friend. I pressed call before I could talk myself out of it. Ring, ring. Hello. Her voice was groggy. It was 3 a.m. Sarah? I choked out. There was a pause. Maya, is that you? I didn't know who else to call, I sobbed, the dam finally breaking. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I know I haven't. Shut up, she interrupted, her voice instantly sharp. Where are you? I'm at the diner on 4th, the 24-hour one. Are you hurt? No, yes, I don't know, I stammered. Ethan, he threw me out. I'm pregnant, Sarah, and he threw me out. That son of a... I heard the rustle of sheets and keys jingling. I'm coming. Give me 10 minutes. Don't you dare move. Sarah, I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any money. Did I ask for rent? She snapped, but the harshness was wrapped in warmth. Just stay put. The line went dead. I stared at the phone until the screen went black. 12 minutes later, a beat-up red sedan screeched into the parking lot. Sarah jumped out wearing pajama pants and a trench coat. She stormed into the diner, scanning the booths until her eyes landed on me. Maya! She reached me in 2 strides. I stood up, clutching my garbage bag, bracing myself for a lecture. I expected her to say I told you so. I expected her to ask why I stayed with him for so long. Instead, she pulled me into a bone-crushing hug. You're freezing, she said, pulling back to look at my face. She wiped a tear from my cheek with her thumb. Let's go. I smell like rain and desperation, I whispered, shame burning my face. I shouldn't have called. He hated you, Sarah. I let him push you away. He hated me because I saw through him, she said fiercely, grabbing my garbage bag with one hand and my arm with the other. But that doesn't matter now. You're safe. She marched me to the car and shoved me into the passenger seat. As the heater blasted warm air against my skin, I looked at her profile. She was furious on my behalf, focused entirely on getting me to safety. Ethan had treated me like disposable trash. Sarah was treating me like I was the most important thing in the world. I placed a hand on my flat stomach. We're going to be okay, I whispered, not to Sarah but to the tiny life inside me. I promise. Ouch. I pressed a hand against the small of my back, trying to rub away the ache. Being 7 months pregnant and scrubbing floors at 2 a.m. was not exactly what I had pictured for my life, but Sarah's couch wasn't going to pay for itself. I dipped the rag back into the bucket of soapy water. Come on, Maya, I whispered to myself, watching my reflection in the dark office window. 2 more offices. Then you can sleep. I dragged the heavy cleaning cart down the hallway of Phoenix Global Marketing. It was the fanciest building in the city. The carpet was so plush it made the cartwheels stick, and the air always smelled like expensive vanilla candles. I pushed open the heavy double doors to the CEO's office. It was massive with a view of the city skyline that sparkled like diamonds. I usually tried to get in and out of here quickly, but tonight something caught my eye. A stack of papers was sprawled across the mahogany desk. The top page was a presentation slide for a luxury watch brand. The slogan read, "Time is money, spend it." I frowned, pausing with my duster in midair. That's terrible, I muttered. It sounds like a threat, not a luxury. I leaned closer, squinting at the text below it. There was a typo in the second paragraph. They had spelled exquisite as exquisite. My old instincts flared up. Before Ethan, before the poverty, I had been a top student. I loved words. I loved persuasion. Without thinking, I grabbed a yellow sticky note from the dispenser. Typo in line 3, I wrote. Then I hesitated. I looked at the slogan again. I scribbled below it, suggestion, time waits for no one. Wear it well. I stuck the note on the page, gathered my cleaning supplies, and hurried out before I lost my nerve. The next night, I was back in the CEO's office, humming softly to keep myself awake. The vacuum cleaner roared as I pushed it under the heavy leather chairs. Turn that thing off. I jumped, nearly tripping over the cord. My heart slammed against my ribs. I fumbled for the switch, and the room went silent. Sitting in the high-back leather chair, hidden in the shadows of the corner, was an older woman. She had steel gray hair cut into a sharp bob and glasses that caught the light. It was Mrs. Higgins, the CEO. I am so sorry, I stammered, clutching the vacuum handle. I didn't know anyone was here. I'll leave. Stay right where you are, she commanded. Her voice was calm but terrifying. She picked up a piece of paper from her desk, the presentation with my yellow sticky note on it. Did you write this? I swallowed hard. I was going to get fired. I was going to lose the only income I had. Yes, ma'am, I whispered, looking down at my worn-out sneakers. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have touched your papers. I saw the mistake and I couldn't help it. You're the night cleaner? Yes. Come here, she said. I waddled forward, feeling huge and clumsy in my oversized cleaning smock. She watched me approach, her eyes scanning my swollen belly, then my tired face. Sit, she said, pointing to the chair opposite her. I really need this job, Mrs. Higgins, I pleaded, sinking into the chair. Please don't report me to the agency. I have a baby coming and... Quiet, she interrupted, but not unkindly. She tapped the yellow note. Wear it well, that's good. Simple, elegant. I blinked. You like it? The agency sent me 3 different slogans. They were all garbage. Yours is the only one that makes me want to buy the watch. She took off her glasses and looked me in the eye. What is your background? You clearly didn't go to school for janitorial services. I was studying communications, I admitted. But life happened. I had to drop out. Life, she repeated, glancing at my stomach. It has a habit of doing that. Do you know how to use Excel? Yes, in PowerPoint. And I can type 80 words a minute. Why are you scrubbing my floors then? Because no one hires a pregnant dropout, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I applied everywhere. They take one look at the bump and show me the door. Mrs. Higgins leaned back, steepled her fingers, and studied me. The silence stretched for a long, agonizing minute. I have an opening for an intern, she said finally. It's mostly filing and data entry to start. The pay is better than cleaning, but the hours are longer. I'll take it, I said instantly, gripping the armrest. I haven't told you the catch, she warned. I'm not a nice boss. I demand perfection. If you're late, you're out. If you make excuses because you're tired, you're out. Can you handle that? I thought about Ethan laughing in my face. I thought about the cold rain and the way Sarah had to pay for my food this morning. A fire lit up in my chest, burning away the exhaustion. I don't make excuses, Mrs. Higgins, I said, looking her dead in the eye. I just need a chance. She cracked a rare, small smile. Report to HR at 8 a.m. tomorrow, she said, sliding the presentation toward me. And fix that typo on your way out. Yes, ma'am, I breathed, standing up. As I walked out of the office, I didn't feel the ache in my back anymore. For the first time in 6 months, I wasn't just surviving. I was starting to climb. Mommy, are you listening to me? I blinked, pulling my gaze away from the tablet screen where stock market graphs were flashing in red and green. I looked down at the 5-year-old tugging on my silk blouse. I'm sorry, Leo, I said, my voice softening instantly. What were you saying? I said, I drew you a picture. It's you fighting a dragon. He held up a piece of paper. In vibrant crayon, a stick figure with long brown hair was standing on top of a green blob holding a briefcase. I smiled, a genuine rare thing that only he could bring out of me. The dragon is the competition, right? I asked, smoothing his dark hair. He looked up at me with those piercing green eyes, the exact same shade as Ethan's. For a long time, looking at him hurt. It was a constant reminder of the man who threw us away, but now Leo was just mine. He was the reason I survived. Yes, Leo said seriously. And you're winning. I always win, baby. Now grab your backpack. We're late. I stood up, catching my reflection in the hallway mirror of our penthouse apartment. The girl in the rain was gone. In her place stood a woman in a $1,000 tailored charcoal suit wearing 4-inch stilettos that clicked sharply against the marble floors. My hair was pulled back in a severe, flawless bun. I wore my success like armor. I dropped Leo off at his private school and drove to Phoenix Global. As I walked through the glass doors, the chatter in the lobby died down. Employees scrambled to look busy. They called me the ice queen behind my back. Good. Ice doesn't break. Morning, Maya. A warm voice greeted me near the elevator. It was Liam, the company's head counsel. He was the only one who didn't look terrified of me. He held out a cup of coffee, black, just how I liked it now. You look like you're ready to fire someone, Liam teased, falling into step beside me. It's a board meeting, Liam. It's worse than firing someone. It's listening to old men talk for 3 hours. You'll handle them, he said, his eyes lingering on my face a second too long. You always do. We walked into the boardroom. Mrs. Higgins was already at the head of the table. She looked frail lately, her sharp edges softened by age, but her eyes were still keen. Sit down, everyone, Mrs. Higgins commanded. The murmurs ceased. I took my seat at her right hand. I called this meeting to announce my retirement, she said bluntly. The room erupted. Retirement? But who will lead? The stock prices will plummet. Mrs. Higgins slammed her hand on the table. Silence returned. I have spent the last 5 years grooming my successor, she said, turning her gaze to me. Maya will be taking over as CEO of Phoenix Global effective immediately. The silence was heavier this time. I kept my face impassive, though my heart hammered against my ribs. I had worked 18-hour days, missed holidays, and sacrificed sleep to get here. I earned this. Maya? One of the board members scoffed. She's brilliant, Martha, but she's young, and aggressive. She's effective, Mrs. Higgins snapped. However, there is a condition for the transition. She slid a thick blue file folder down the table toward me. To secure our market share for the next quarter, we need to acquire a failing tech firm that has the software patents we need. It's a hostile takeover. They're drowning in debt and their management is incompetent. I need you to go in there, clean house, and absorb their assets. Consider it done, I said coolly, placing my hand on the file. What's the company name? Technovus, Liam answered from across the table, checking his notes. My blood ran cold. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Technovus, that was the dream company Ethan had left me for. The company he claimed would make him a millionaire. I slowly opened the file. The employee roster was on the second page. My finger traced down the list of managers until it stopped. Ethan Caldwell, Regional Manager. Is there a problem, Maya? Mrs. Higgins asked, watching me closely. I stared at the name, the man who called me a gold digger. The man who left his unborn child in the rain. He was working for a failing company, and I was about to become his boss. A slow, dangerous smile spread across my face, the kind of smile a shark gives before it bites. No problem at all, I said, closing the file. In fact, I think I'm going to enjoy this. Here's the personnel file for the acquisition, Liam said, placing a thick folder on my desk. I flagged the departments with the highest redundancy. I didn't need to open it to know whose name was inside, but I flipped the cover open anyway. My finger hovered over the third name on the list, Ethan Caldwell. Mid-level sales manager. He's still a manager? I asked, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. He told me he'd be on the board of directors within 2 years. He hasn't been promoted since 2021, Liam noted, tapping the page. His performance reviews are mediocre. He's missed his sales targets for 3 quarters in a row. Honestly, Maya, even without your history, I'd recommend letting him go based on the numbers alone. I stared at the photo attached to his file. He looked smug in the picture, but the data told a different story. Stagnant, struggling, failing. Suddenly, the room spun. A wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to grip the edge of my mahogany desk. Maya? Liam's voice sharpened. Sit down. You're pale. I can't do this, I whispered, the panic rising in my throat. What if I see him and I turn back into that 22-year-old girl? What if I'm not ready? Liam walked around the desk. He didn't touch me, he knew I had boundaries, but his presence was a solid wall against my fear. Look at this office, Maya, he said firmly. Look at your suit. You are the CEO of a multi-million-dollar corporation. He is a failing manager in a dying company. He doesn't hold the power anymore. You do. I took a deep, shuddering breath. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. Liam was right. I wasn't that girl anymore. I want to go alone, I said, standing up and smoothing my skirt. Are you sure? I can announce your arrival. No, I said, reaching for my oversized designer sunglasses. I don't want them to know the new owner is coming yet. I want to see exactly what I'm buying. 30 minutes later, my driver pulled up to the glass tower of Technovus. 5 years ago, Ethan used to drive past this building and drool over it. He used to say, "One day, Maya, I'll be running a place like this." Now the building looked tired. The landscaping was overgrown. It looked like a place that had given up. I stepped out of the car, sliding my sunglasses onto my face. I walked into the lobby, my heels clicking rhythmically on the tile. The receptionist wasn't at her desk. The place felt abandoned. Then I heard a voice. A voice that used to whisper, "I love you," and then shouted, "Get out." I told you, Chloe, the credit card is maxed out. I froze near the elevator bank. Ethan was pacing back and forth near the security desk. He looked older. His hairline was receding and his suit jacket was tight around the waist. He looked exhausted. "Don't start with me," he hissed into his phone. "I'm trying to save my job here. There are rumors of a buyout. If I lose this gig, we lose the lease on the car. Just borrow it from your dad." "Oh, right, he won't talk to you." He pinched the bridge of his nose, looking defeated. I stood perfectly still, watching him unravel. He wasn't a monster. He was just a small, desperate man trapped in a life he couldn't afford. He hung up the phone aggressively and turned toward the elevators. His eyes swept over the lobby and landed on me. My breath hitched. Here it is. He's going to recognize me. Ethan looked me up and down. He didn't see Maya. He saw a tailored Chanel suit, a Birkin bag, and a woman who clearly didn't belong in his crumbling world. "Elevator is broken," he grunted at me, dismissing me instantly. "Take the stairs if you're looking for the lawyers." He turned his back on me, ignoring the light that said "out of order." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. A smile tugged at the corner of my lips, hidden behind my dark glasses. "Thank you," I said softly. He didn't even turn around. To him, I was just a suit. He had no idea that the woman standing behind him held the axe that was about to sever his entire livelihood. I walked toward the stairs, my nausea replaced by cold, steely resolve. "See you in the boardroom, Ethan." Actually, we were high school sweethearts. It was a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. I paused outside the break room door, my hand hovering over the handle. Ethan's voice drifted out, loud and performative. "Really?" Jessica's voice was filled with awe. "So, you guys are close?" "Close? We were basically married," Ethan bragged. I could practically hear the smirk in his voice. "We just drifted apart because of our careers. She went to marketing, I went to sales, but now that she's back, let's just say the spark never really died. I'm the reason she bought the company. She wanted to be closer to me." I shoved the door open. Ethan was leaning against the counter, holding a steaming cup of coffee. He jumped when he saw me, but quickly recovered, flashing that oily smile. "Speak of the devil," he beamed, stepping toward me. "Morning, Maya, I picked up your usual. Soy latte, 2 pumps of vanilla, right? Just like old times." He held the cup out to me in front of 5 other employees. They watched, waiting to see if the rumors were true. I looked at the cup, then at him. "I drink black coffee now, Mr. Caldwell," I said, my voice cutting through the room like ice. "And I don't recall asking for room service." "Oh, come on," he laughed, trying to play it off as a joke. "You always played hard to get." "It's cute." "Mr. Caldwell," I said, stepping closer so only he could feel the chill radiating off me. "If you spent half as much time on your client list as you do spreading lies about my personal life, your department wouldn't be in the red. Get back to work." I turned on my heel and walked out, leaving him standing there with the cup. But he didn't stop. An hour later, my desk phone buzzed. It was the receptionist from the lobby. "Miss Winters?" Her voice sounded panicked. "I have a woman down here. She's demanding to see you. She says she's your mother-in-law." My pen froze mid-signature. "I don't have a mother-in-law." "She's crying, Miss Winters. She's making a scene. She keeps saying, 'I just want to see my daughter. I want to see my grandbaby.'" My stomach turned. Ethan's mother. The woman who had once told me I wasn't allowed to sit on her white furniture because I looked dusty. The woman who told Ethan to dump me because my bloodline wasn't prestigious enough. What is her name? I asked, though I knew. "Mrs. Caldwell, she says she misses you. Tell security to escort her out." I said, my hand gripping the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. If she doesn't leave, call the police for trespassing. But she's sobbing on the floor, the receptionist whispered. She's an actress, I snapped. Do it? I slammed the phone down. My hands were shaking. They were trying to corner me. They were using Leo, my son, who they had never met, never asked about, never sent a single dollar for as a bargaining chip. The door opened and Liam walked in, looking grim. He held a financial dossier. You heard about the lobby? I asked, rubbing my temples. Hard to miss, Liam said, sitting down. She's screaming about family values. But I think I know why they're suddenly so interested in a family reunion. He tossed the dossier onto my desk. I looked deeper into Ethan's personal finances, Liam explained. It's ugly, Maya. He's drowning. How? I frowned. He makes a decent salary. And Chloe comes from money. Chloe came from money, Liam corrected. Her father cut her off 3 years ago. Apparently he didn't approve of her partying lifestyle. She hasn't seen a dime of the family fortune since 2022. I stared at him, stunned. So they're broke? Worse, they're living on credit. Ethan took out 3 loans to pay for their wedding, which they still haven't paid off. He has gambling debts. His car is 2 months away from repossession. And since Chloe has no income, his salary is the only thing keeping them from eviction. I looked out the window, watching the tiny figures on the sidewalk below. I imagined Ethan's mother being dragged out by security. He bragged about Chloe's wealth when he left me, I whispered. He said she could build him an empire. And now, Liam said softly, he realizes you're the one with the empire. And he's desperate. He thinks he can charm his way back in because he needs a paycheck. I realized, disgust rising in my throat like bile. He doesn't want me. He doesn't want Leo. He wants a bailout. What do you want to do? Liam asked. I picked up the black coffee on my desk and took a sip. It was bitter just the way I liked it. I want to let him think he still has a chance, I said, my eyes hardening. And then I want to watch him lose everything. The office was dead silent, save for the hum of the air conditioner. It was nearly midnight. I rubbed my eyes, the glow of the computer screen blurring my vision. I found it, Liam said, walking into my office without knocking. He dropped a thin file onto my desk. It wasn't easy. He was careful, but not careful enough. Found what? I asked, picking up the folder. The reason his numbers never add up, Liam said, sitting on the edge of my desk. Look at the client entertainment expenses for the last 18 months. He's been expensing dinners, flights, and gifts for clients that don't exist. I flipped through the pages. Steak dinner, $400. Hotel stay, $800. I cross-referenced these dates, Liam continued. On the night he claimed to be whining and doubting the CEO of Miller Corp., the CEO was in Tokyo. Ethan wasn't with a client. He was withdrawing cash. He's embezzling, I whispered, the realization hitting me. He's stealing from the company. To pay off Chloe's debts, Liam nodded. I traced 2 of the withdrawals to a payments account linked to her maiden name. It's not millions, Maya, but it's theft. It's a felony. I closed the file. This was it. The smoking gun. I didn't just have grounds to fire him for incompetence. I had grounds to send him to prison. Let's go, I said, standing up and grabbing my purse. I can't look at his name anymore tonight. We took the elevator down to the parking garage. The concrete structure was cold and shadowed. Our footsteps echoed loudly as we walked toward my car. Maya! The shout bounced off the concrete walls. I froze. Ethan stumbled out from behind a concrete pillar. His tie was undone, his hair was a mess, and the smell of whiskey hit me from 10 feet away. Ethan, go home, I said, my voice steady, though my heart raced. You're drunk. Don't tell me what to do, he yelled, swaying slightly. You think you're so smart, don't you? Sitting up there in your big office, judging me. I'm not judging you, I said coldly. I'm auditing you. You planned this. He took a step closer, his face twisted in anger. You've been planning this for 5 years. You got pregnant on purpose back then, didn't you? You wanted to trap me. You knew I was going places, and you tried to anchor me down with a brat. I didn't trap you, I said, my hands balling into fists. I loved you. Love? He spat. You ruined my life. If it wasn't for you stressing me out back then, I would have focused better. I would be the CEO by now. You owe me this job, Maya. You owe me. He lunged forward and grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. Let go of me. I cried out. Hey, Liam was there in a second. He shoved Ethan hard in the chest. Ethan stumbled back, tripping over his own feet and slamming against a parked car. He looked up, dazed, rubbing his chest. His eyes focused on Liam, then moved to me, specifically to my left hand. The diamond ring on my finger caught the overhead fluorescent light. I had bought it for myself the day I got my first executive bonus symbol that I belonged to no one but myself, but Ethan didn't know that. A ring? He whispered, his eyes widening. He looked at Liam, then back at me. You ... You married him? He looked shattered. For 5 years, he had convinced himself that I was pining for him, that I was broken without him. Seeing that ring destroyed his fantasy. He realized he wasn't the protagonist of my life anymore. He was just a footnote. I didn't get trapped, Ethan, I said, stepping closer to him, my voice ringing with absolute power. And I didn't trap you. You let go of the only real thing you ever had. And now, you have nothing. Maya, please, he whimpered, the aggression draining out of him, replaced by pathetic desperation. I didn't mean it. Get out of my sight, I said, turning my back on him. Before I call the police right now. I got into the car, my heart pounding, but my head clear. He was done. The auditorium hummed with the nervous energy of 200 employees. I stood backstage, watching the feed on the monitor. In the front row, Ethan sat with his legs crossed, looking like the king of the castle. He was whispering to Jessica, pointing at the empty podium and then pointing to himself. I could practically hear him saying, "She's going to announce my promotion." Just watch. I smoothed the front of my blazer, took a deep breath, and walked out. The room went silent. I stepped up to the podium, placing my hands on the edges. Thank you all for coming, I said, my voice amplified and steady. As you know, Phoenix Global has acquired this company. Change is never easy. But change is necessary when a system is broken. Ethan nodded vigorously from the front row. That's right, he said, loud enough for the first few rows to hear. Out with the old. Exactly, Mr. Caldwell, I said, locking eyes with him. We need to remove the elements that are poisoning this organization. We need transparency. And we need honesty. Ethan sat up straighter, buttoning his jacket. He smiled at me, a conspiratorial, arrogant smile. He thought we were playing a game. He thought the parking lot incident was just foreplay. To that end, I continued, I want to share the findings of our internal audit. I pressed the button on the remote in my hand. The massive screen behind me flickered to life. A spreadsheet appeared, highlighting a series of transactions in bright red. Ethan's smile faltered. He squinted at the screen. Mr. Caldwell, I said, can you explain the entry from November 14th? A $4,000 charge for client retention at the Sapphire Lounge. The room turned to look at him. Ethan chuckled nervously, standing up halfway. Well, obviously, that was for the Peterson account, big drinkers. You know how it is, Maya. We have to wine and dine them. The Peterson account? I asked, scrolling to the next slide. According to their CEO, whom I spoke with this morning, they haven't had a meeting with you in 6 months. Also, the Sapphire Lounge is a casino. A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. Jessica gasped, covering her mouth. There must be a clerical error. Ethan stammered, sweat breaking out on his forehead. I lost the receipt, so I just estimated. And the flight to Sabo? I interrupted, my voice sharpening. Listed as a conference. There was no conference in CABO that week. Ethan, but there was a charge on your corporate card for a couple's massage. This is ridiculous. Ethan shouted, fully standing up now. His face was turning a blotchy red. You can't do this. You can't air this in public. I can, I said coldly, because this isn't just poor management, it's theft. You have embezzled over $50,000 from this company in the last 2 years to fund your personal debts. Lies, he screamed, looking around wildly at his colleagues. She's lying. She's manipulating the data. The bank records don't lie, Ethan. I closed the folder on the podium. Ethan Caldwell, your employment is terminated, effective immediately. Our legal team has already contacted the authorities regarding the stolen funds. I nodded to the side of the room. 2 large, uniformed security guards stepped out from the shadows. Ethan looked at them, then back at me. Panic seized him. The arrogance was gone, replaced by the terrified realization that his life was over. No, wait, he pleaded, holding his hands up. Maya, don't do this. We're family. We have a history. Security, I said calmly. The guards grabbed him by the arms. Ethan began to thrash, fighting against their grip. She's crazy. He screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. She's my ex. She's doing this because I dumped her. She's obsessed with me, don't you see? It's a vendetta. The room was dead silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Jessica looked down at her lap, refusing to look at him. He was alone. Maya, please. He sobbed as they dragged him toward the exit doors. His heels skidded on the floor. I'm sorry. I'll pay it back. I have a wife. I have nowhere to go. Please, don't throw me out like this. You should have thought of that before you stole from me, I said into the microphone. They kicked the double doors open and hauled him into the hallway. His wails echoed for a moment before the doors swung shut, cutting off the sound. I stood there, watching the closed doors. The image of him crying, begging, and being thrown out with nothing burned into my mind. It was the exact mirror of the night in the rain. I looked back at the stunned audience. Now, I said, my voice calm and composed. Let's discuss the future. This came to the front desk, Liam said, tossing a crumpled envelope onto the glass surface of my desk. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It's shaky. I stared at the scribbled name, Maya. It looked desperate. Is it safe to open? I asked, hesitating. It's just paper, Maya. It can't hurt you anymore. I sliced it open with my letter opener. The page inside was torn from a yellow legal pad. Maya, I read aloud, my voice echoing in the quiet office. I hope you're happy. Chloe packed her bags 10 minutes after the security guards threw me out. She told me she couldn't be with a criminal loser. She didn't even say goodbye. I'm sleeping on my mother's couch. My car was repossessed yesterday. Sounds like justice, Liam noted dryly, leaning against the window. I kept reading and my stomach tightened. But I've been thinking, I did the math, the timing. That boy is mine, isn't he? I want a DNA test. If he's my son, I have rights. I've been denied my role as a father. Maybe we can work out a financial settlement so I don't have to take this to the press. I need cash, Maya, for the boy's sake. I dropped the letter on the desk as if it were on fire. He wants money, I whispered, panic flaring in my chest. He wants to use Leo as a bargaining chip. He wants to drag my son into this mess. He can try, Liam said, his voice deadly calm. He didn't look worried. Liam, he's the biological father. If he goes to a judge, he won't get past the front door of a courthouse, Liam interrupted, walking over to me. Maya, breathe. Think back to the hospital. Who signed the birth certificate? I did, I said, my breath hitching. Just me. And the father's line? Blank, he refused to come. He said he didn't want his name attached to a mistake. Exactly, Liam said firmly. Legally, Ethan Caldwell is a stranger to Leo. He abandoned his rights 5 years ago. And considering he is currently facing felony embezzlement charges, no family court judge in this country would grant him visitation. He has no leverage. He's just bluffing because he's broke. I looked at the letter again. The fear began to recede, replaced by a strange, hollow feeling. It wasn't anger, it wasn't hate. It was just ... pity. He's pathetic, I said softly. He's desperate, Liam corrected. What do you want to do with it? I picked up the decorative candle burning on the corner of my desk. I held the edge of the yellow paper to the flame. We watched in silence as the fire caught, curling the paper into black ash. I need cash, I quoted as the words disappeared into smoke. He didn't ask about Leo's name. He didn't ask if he was happy. He just asked for a check. I dropped the burning remnant into the metal wastebasket and watched it turn to dust. Do you feel better? Liam asked gently. I took a deep breath, expecting the old pain to be there, but it was gone. The weight that had been sitting on my chest for 5 years had vanished with the smoke. I don't hate him, I realized, looking up at Liam. I don't feel anything at all. He's just a stranger. That, Liam smiled, is the best revenge of all. It's over, I said, turning away from the ashes. Let's go home. Higher, Liam, push me higher. I think we're about to hit the moon, buddy. Hold on tight. I sat on the checkered picnic blanket, squinting against the bright midday sun. The park was alive with the sound of birds and children playing, but the only sound that mattered to me was Leo's laughter. It was a pure, uninhibited sound that filled the air. Liam was running behind the swing set, his tie abandoned on the grass, his sleeves rolled up. He pushed Leo with exaggerated effort, making my son shriek with delight. He's going to wear that poor man out, a dry voice said beside me. I turned to see Mrs. Higgins carefully lowering herself onto the blanket. She was wearing blue jeans, something I had never seen in 5 years, and a sun hat. Liam has infinite patience, I said, smiling as I handed her a bottle of sparkling water. Besides, I think he's having more fun than Leo. He's a good man, Maya, Mrs. Higgins said, taking the bottle. And you've built a good life. It's certainly different from where I started, I murmured, plucking a blade of grass. I saw the quarterly reports this morning, she said, switching back to business mode for a split second. The stock is up 12% since you ousted the previous management at Technovus. The board is thrilled. They stopped asking about my return. I told you I would handle it, I said. I know, she said, her expression softening. She took off her sunglasses and looked at me with a rare warmth. You know, when I found you in my office that night, pregnant and terrified, I didn't hire you because I needed an intern. I hired you because I saw a fire in your eyes. A lot of people break when their world falls apart, Maya. You didn't break. You sharpened. I didn't have a choice, I said quietly. I had Leo to think about. We always have a choice, she corrected firmly. You could have gone back to him. You could have stayed small. You chose to become a giant. I'm proud of you. My throat tightened. Thank you, Mrs. Higgins. Grandma Higgins, Leo yelled, jumping off the swing mid-motion and landing in the sand with a thud. He sprinted toward us, Liam jogging breathlessly behind him. Careful, torpedo. Liam laughed, collapsing onto the blanket next to me. He smelled like grass and expensive cologne. Your son is a machine, Maya. I need a recharge. Did you see me? Leo asked, climbing into Mrs. Higgins' lap without an ounce of shyness. I was flying. I saw you, Mrs. Higgins said, patting his head awkwardly but affectionately. You were very brave. I watched them, my mentor, my son, and the man who had stood by me through the ugliest battles. A warm breeze brushed past my face, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine. For a moment, my mind drifted back to that night 5 years ago. The rain, the slamming door, the feeling of absolute worthlessness. I realized then that I had been looking at it all wrong. I had hated Ethan for closing that door on me. But looking at this life, this beautiful, successful, peaceful life, I realized he had done me the greatest favor of all. If he had let me in that night, I would have been a miserable housewife to a selfish, mediocre man. I would have spent my life making him small coffees while he chased small dreams. I never would have found my strength. I never would have found Mrs. Higgins. I never would have found myself. Maya? Liam's voice pulled me back. He was looking at me, his eyes searching my face. You went somewhere else for a second. You okay? I looked at his hand resting on the blanket near mine. Strong, steady, kind. I was just thinking about the past, I said, reaching out and weaving my fingers through his. Liam froze for a second, surprised by the contact. I rarely initiated affection. Then he squeezed my hand back, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. And? He asked softly. And I'm glad it's over, I said, looking him in the eyes. I'm ready for what comes next. With me? He asked, a hopeful smile tugging at his lips. With you, I confirmed. I looked back at Leo, who was now trying to explain the stock market to Mrs. Higgins using rocks he found in the grass. I wasn't the girl in the rain anymore. I wasn't the victim of a tragedy. I was the architect of my own world. Come on, I said, standing up and pulling Liam with me. Let's go push him again. I think he wants to reach the stars. We can get him there, Liam said. I know, I smiled, stepping into the sunlight. We already have.